Hello. Thank you for joining me. I am Matt. I'm in the UK, so that's good evening to everyone in my part of the world. And hope you're having a great day wherever you're at. Yeah, I should start by introducing myself. Like I just said, my name is Matt. I'm one of the co-founders of Planet No Code. Myself and the other co-founder, Sean, we're trying to build the greatest Bubble teaching resource out there, and our YouTube channel is already full of really bite-sized, detailed tutorial videos to help you get into building no-code apps with Bubble. Yeah, this is really the start of what I hope and is likely to turn into a series of live streams where I'm just going to take you through how to build an app in Bubble. And the app I'm going to be building is, let me just move my picture around, a bit more space, there we go, is an inventory tracker for a small business. I'm literally going to be starting with a blank canvas in Bubble and just making sure that all our features are working. Excellent. Yeah, I'm going to be starting with a blank canvas and showing you just how I would approach building a Bubble app. I came across Bubble back in 2017, so I like to think that I've picked up quite a few tips and tricks and just kind of useful ways to approach the platform to build an efficient and really nicely working app. So before we get into the Bubble editor, just to tell you what I'll be building. The background to this app is that my wife started an Etsy store about 18 months ago, and she would really like a way to track the inventory of the materials that she uses in order to produce and ship the products on there. So that's, in a nutshell, what the app will be doing. More detailed, yeah, well, there you go. That's what I'd like the app to do. Those are the challenges that I'm going to be facing trying to create in these live streams. So we're going to be logging materials in and out of her inventory, giving the user alerts when a material gets to a certain threshold. So there's only like 20 items of cardstock left. Track when specific materials are used or they're wasted, like if you were to buy 200 pieces of cards, how many are marked. It's just helpful to know with the suppliers. The real key bit of this app is that at the moment she tracks everything through a spreadsheet, and at the end of the day she will enter into that spreadsheet the number of items of each of the materials she uses into it. But she wants a way that she can enter this data really easily on the go. So once she sells greetings cards, some of her illustrations are on this brief slideshow. So each greeting card, once she's put that in an envelope, to log that it's used a piece of card, it's used a small envelope, and then a backboard envelope, and the postage stickers go on it, logging each of those. And so I'm going to try and build that in a kind of Stream Deck-like interface to run on a phone. It's not going to be a native mobile app, but it will be a responsive web app built into the application. Then some yearly and monthly reports. Right, that's enough of the detail. I think we should dive straight in and start building something in Bubble. So, like I said, completely blank app. I've just created it, so everything you're going to see in this video and going forward will be using the new responsive engine. I've also updated it to the first paid plan on Bubble, which is the personal plan, because I'm going to be using some backend workflows and some database triggers. And maybe at the end of this session, showing how to link up a domain name, which will require a paid plan. I'm also, I self-confess, I'm not a designer. So I have a UI kit just on the right of my screen, which I'm going to be using for inspiration to build the UI elements. So blank canvas. Let's begin to build a dashboard where my wife, she could enter some different materials. So first of all, I'm going to just adjust the width of my page, make it slightly larger. and then change it to a row type, because I'm going to have a left-hand side sidebar. And I think to make this quite quick, I'm not going to really focus on design as much as I would like to, because I think that otherwise I could spend an hour just creating designs with groups. So let's make my background color, so it's my elements on top stand out. Oh, there we go. Just lost my mouse for a moment. I got too many screens. And then, yeah, make it white. And then let's just create another element. And we're already making good use of the new responsive engine to quickly lay out some columns. And then this one is going to be get rid of the fixed width, and then it will take up all the remaining space. It's never too early to check in preview how things are looking. It's a little bit hard to see, but because of the contrast, but I have a left-hand sidebar with a fixed width, and then the rest of my page content. So data types. I'm going to need materials, and I'm going to need I'm going to call it a record. So each time like a piece of card is used. Okay. So let's create a repeating group in here, and then having said I'm not going to concentrate much on style, I do like to make things look nice. Probably spend too long doing it. Let's add a 30 pixel padding inside there, and then we'll make this. So my approach to the new responsive engine is that it is meant to be responsive after all. So I always try and build with responsivity in mind. So that's why I'm setting values to 100%, because then I can scale everything down by just adjusting the size of the outer box, the container that it's in. So this is going to be of type materials, and then I'm going to just do a search for all materials. Cool. And then let's start putting some labels in. And in layout of the repeating group, I'm going to set it to a row, because this is basically building a table manually. So this is going to show current sales material, and then let's add a field label. And then let's add another, and we'll just call this, I'll put 0 in here because we're going to have this as our count. Right, now I need a way to add materials in. So I could do that directly in the data tab, adding in materials, but I'm going to need to build a form on the front end anyway. So even though this would be quicker, I'm going to use the front end to do that. So input, material label, and then add a button. Great. Okay, to get this looking nice, I'm going to put them both in a row. Get rid of the height. Let's make this consistent. So 54, fixed height of 54. And then send that to the end. Let's pop it open in the element tree. There's my row. Rather than fit to content, I'm going to say max width 100%. And then if we put the container alignment to space between, you can see that I've now got a nice gap in between them. In fact, let's get rid of the fixed width there, and let's just go group gap between 30. Cool. Let's build a quick workflow for how this works. So showing how to add a material into my database. So data, create new thing, material, and then my label is going to be my input material label value, and then easy to forget, but in fact it recommends it to you now. We reset the relevant input, so that way I can quickly add more than one label in at a time, material item rather. So let's hit preview. Okay, so I have got written here. So these are the different materials that my wife requires to be tracked. So we'll go cardstock, card envelopes. There we go. You can see it's been added into my repeating group. Card in. What else was there? A5 backboard envelopes, A4 backboard envelopes. And postage labels. Okay. Now, I think postage labels went through, but I have got my layout and appearance tabs on here. So let's get rid of fixed number of rows. Let's get rid of there. Now, this is a really, I've not seen anyone else do this. If you want to create a nice uniformed gap in between your rows on a repeating group, you can take an element or the group that's containing them in that cell and add like a margin to the bottom. But if you want it to only appear between the cells, then the way that I've been doing this for years is to boost up the width to, say, 30, and then change the color transparency down to 0. Okay, brilliant. Now, moving on to the log, I think we should start building the progressive web app element. So I'm going to create a new page, let's call it mobile. And layout is going to be a column. And then just so that I'm in the mindset of mobile, I'm going to set, oh no, I'll keep it at, but yeah, I was thinking of doing it landscape. I'll do it portrait just because that's going to be easier. So let's move the UI builder width all the way down so that it's going to be a portrait mobile app. And then I need to add in a repeating group to show all of my materials. So do a search for materials. There we go. Right now, because I'm going for this Stream Deck-like design, I'm going to go for 2 columns, and the number of materials I need is actually only 5. But you know, I've got part of me thinking that I want to build this app and maybe release it to other people. So let's just build out this repeating group. There we go. And then inside of each cell is going to be a group. I'm going to have a container. I just need to change the cell container to row or column. Doesn't really matter in this context because I'm going to set my group to be row. I can always change it later. Set that to 100%. And then let's add in some text. And this is, I'm just going to center this completely in the app, in the cell rather. So center my text in the cell. This is going to contain my, so I need to give my group a content identity. There we go. And now I can retrieve that from the cell. Cool. Let's just get rid of the max number of rows. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Yeah, these are just things that I do so that I can keep track of where. Yeah, you get to a point when I had this when I was working with. Not sure what happened there. I think there's a slight blip in my internet connection. You're hunting down for the element that is making your design stuck. So I'll try to get rid of those as I go along. Let's get rid of, and we'll do a similar trick with the repeating group here. We'll have 10 pixel border, shrink it down to 0. Let's give these a color so they look a little bit more like a button. Why not the blue? Yeah, like I say, I'm taking some design shortcuts here for time. Material label, does that need to be white against that blue? Yeah, that looks all right. And then let's preview. Okay, bear in mind, this is going to look odd because I'm building it to be responsive, but it's stretched all the way to the edge of the screen because this is intended for a much smaller mobile screen. Oh, by the way, as I'm going along, if you have any questions or you'd like me to demonstrate something as I'm going along, do put it in the comments. I'm keeping an eye on those on the different platforms that we're streaming to this evening. So please, yeah, share your thoughts, share your ideas. So how do I log that a material has been used and keep track of that? So I'm going to do it where every time the button is pressed, it creates a data entry in Bubble. And that's because I want to be able to group by day and by month going forward. I also want to be able to undo, have an undo button. So I'm not going to have a fixed number. Say today 5 cards has been used, -1 makes it 4. I'm just going to have, this is every time a card has been used, and make a sum of that figure using the count tool in Bubble. So when that button is clicked, I'm going to say create a new thing. And so this is going to be a record. And so the record is going to be, I'm going to say value. It's going to be numerical. And I'm going to set it up initially to be each time an item is used, so hence the -1. And I'm also just going to prepare, excuse me, I want this interface on the phone to be really quick for my wife in her business, so that most of it she's going to be logging if an item is used, if it's consumed. But I also want her to be able to log when she has purchased. So it'd be she's consumed a piece of card, but actually on the same day she's purchased 400 sheets of card. There's also the scenario that a sheet of card has gone to waste. Maybe the printer didn't work. So to set myself up for that, each record is going to have a type. And I'm going to use an option set for that. Option sets are fantastic if you're going to be rolling out a set of terms across your app that aren't going to change, such as currencies. Countries is also another good example. But for here, type. So I'm going to say used. And then I'm going to say wasted. And then I'll say purchased. So this allows me to then add a field to my record, and it's going to be type, to say the type of the record. And what I've seen people doing is using a text value, and that just destroys the benefit of using option sets. So type of type allows me to store an option set and just get those values that are part of the option set used. Brilliant. Okay, so now if I click on cardstock, I think we can see, hopefully, that it has generated a record. I missed a bit. I've not stored the material. So I need to create a field for material. There's not much use about that. And so the material is the current sales material referring to the cell of the repeating group. Let's try that. Let's go with card envelopes. Okay. Let's also, so that this makes a little bit more sense, change how it's referred, how Bobble labels the different parts in our database. So by updating that, I can now see that this is of type used and it's of material card envelopes. I'm going to delete that one because it's missing a material. Okay. If I go back to my criteria, I want to add an undo button, switch between the modes, and a confirmation alert for user actions. Okay, let's go with a confirmation alert. I'm going to use a plugin. There's a very nice selection of Toasty plugins. Toasty is a library for notifications. Going a little bit off piste it because I should check that I can get these to work. Just a moment. No. Okay, in that case, it's just going to be in the workflow. I think I have used this plugin before. So how am I going to get a notification to pop up on the screen to confirm that it's been logged? It's my wife's concern. How does she know that she's tapped it and that is actually saved to her database? So I believe it's going to be here. Yeah, Toasty, free information. Let's say used, and then current sales material label -1. And let's just say bottom center. Let's try that. Okay, I think I chose bottom. That was a bad move because it's not going to show up with the debugger. So let's go top full width just so we can see it's all working. Yes, there we go. So a confirmation that the tap has been recognized, and I could really fine tune these settings. Like I want it to be quick, and you can see that that is possible. But I'm wanting to use time well. Excuse me for a moment. Okay, how am I going to do an undo button? Now, I've not actually done this in Bobble before, but I have an idea how I'm going to go about it. And that is by storing a record to the user and then removing, that's how I'm going to retrieve it. Anyway, so when the record is created, I'm going to go to make changes to current user and then say, do I need to do this if I can just do a search for records created by the user? No, I don't actually. Okay, so because part of the, as well as like a created date and a modified date, everything that you create in Bobble, apart from a user data type, has got a created by field. And so actually, I can build this. I think I'm going to need to put a little header in here. So let's place that in and make it a row, make it full width. I'm going to make it dark so that it stands out against the background. up to the top. Let's put a 30 and down the bottom. And then I could put a button up here called undo. And let's put a little bit of padding. 20 padding is currently my favorite to put around anything that goes near the page edge. I think it looks really nice. Just much more tidy. So undo. Now I want to delete the most recent record created by this user. So I can go delete a thing and then do a search for record. Now, privacy rules, I'm not going to cover that now. We've got some videos on privacy rules on our YouTube channel already. But you can set your privacy rules up to only show data types created by that user, in which case you wouldn't need to put created by in place. I'm going to do it now because it illustrates what I'm doing. But just be aware that if you are that created by as a search criteria in do a search for is not a good way of handling privacy. You will want to, that's not really restricting. You want to do the restriction of sensitive data from one user to another in the data tab under privacy. But right now, created by equals current user. And then we'll do sort by created date, descending, so that the first item is the most recent. So this provides a list. We go to the first item and deletes. Okay, let's put a toasty notification in there so that we make it all very clear. We'll go with error because I assume that would be red. Actually, if I put this into here and then put the notification first, because otherwise it will get the wrong record. First item, I'll say material label undo. Okay, it's not very clear, but I'm putting a little bit of dynamic data in there now. And we'll say, yeah, top full width again, and then it deletes it. Yeah. We'll do this by looking in the database tab and seeing if this is all working. So let's say we go that one, postage labels. Oh no, we didn't mean to click postage labels. Let's check that postage labels is in our database. Excellent. And then let's click undo. And there we go. We just saw it for a split second. Postage labels is gone. Okay. Actually, that was a simpler approach than I was thinking of earlier on in the day. So that's the undo button. Then I want to also be able to toggle modes. Okay, how will I go about that? So there's two ways I could do it. I could store mode as a custom state, which would mean if the page was refreshed, that the mode would change, or it would go back to the default. Or if I store it to the current user, then it means that if the user, in this case my wife, this is for a business, if the current user returns to it, then that value is stayed the same. And the values that I'm talking about are the restock, used, and wasted as the three different things that we want to input as having happened to a material. I think for now, I'll just do a drop down. A drop down up here. Okay, so the drop down is a dynamic one because it's going to be referring to type, and then I want all types and display. But I know that most of the time it's going to be used. Let's add a little bit of spacing up here. And then that just means I have to update my workflow for here to refer to my drop down. Okay, and then I will save this drop down to current user. That way that the state of the buttons is going to be saved and persist. So for that, I can use a when an inputs value is changed, it's already selected the drop down. Make changes to current user. I'm going to call this progressive web app button state button action. You just have to come up with your own naming principles in Bubble, and you can always go back and change them. So that is of type. Yep. Cool. And then what I can even do, just to make this even more less likely to cause a bug in the future, is when a user is created, that the type is used. So when if I click card is used, I'm going to have to do something about that. Okay, I've just spotted something I'm going to change, and then that is wasted. So my notification is wrong, and also I will need to change my drop down to not be empty. So let's make those notifications correct. So toasty free, how am I going to do this? I think I'll do this only when that type is used. And then I'll just create a series of them. Now, you really don't want to, you want to keep your, you really want to try and keep your workflows tidy and condensed. A workflow that spans multiple rows really depends what you're doing, but it is going to slow down your Bubble application. So because I'm only doing 3 different variations, I am going to approach it as just one after another, depending on the statement at the bottom. So purchased, I'll make that successful, so that's green. And then I'm going to remove the number because I've not got a way of, the purchasing is going to be more than 1, and I've not currently got a way to do that. So let's just call that purchased. And then paste. And then I'm going to do one for wasted. And actually, let's go with warning because I think that would be a yellow. Going to be -1. Again, in fact, we will put closed buttons on all of these, newest at the top. Let's try that. Okay, so wasted. Excellent. And then used. Brilliant. And then right now we can only add one at a time. Purchased. Okay. And let's check our database. Cool. Right. That's all working. Obviously for purchased, I need to have a different value in there. But I think I'll come back to that. I want to move on to something else. So that's quite an ugly, but the bare bones of a web app interface in order to track the inventory. Let's go to, what should we go to next? We could do something on reports. Yeah, okay. So let's go back onto our index, which will, yeah, okay, let's work on this sum. So let's add a bit of data to our database too. So we'll get rid of those purchased because purchased is not going to be a minus. So let's instead set a of purchased for cardstock, and we'll say 400. And let's just do it for one more. Several envelopes on there. A4 envelopes purchased. We'll say this time it's 200. So how do I go about showing a sum of all of the records? Yeah, let's do that for starters. So I can go for, do a search for record where material equals current sales material. And if and then let's go for value, because this will show you what's going on if I do it step by step. Okay, at the moment you get a list of all of the record entries for that particular material. Now I want to add them up, so I would go for current record value sum. Okay, all right, I don't have a way of checking that's right. Well, now click in the database. Okay, so cardstock, it was saying it's basically 400 minus 1, so that's correct. Cardstock is, yeah, cardstock only has 2 entries. This has worked. One is minus 1 and the other is 400. Okay, so that will function as a running total, and yeah, that's good for that bit. I just noticed that we've had a few more people join us on different platforms. This is the beginning of a series of streaming of how to build a no-code app in Bubble for my wife's business. She's an Etsy seller, and she has different materials that go together, and she wants to keep track of those in the products that she produces. If you have any questions, if you think that something that you're currently working with in your app is going to be relevant, or maybe even if it isn't, and you'd like to see me demonstrate it, please leave a comment, put something in the chat, and I'll happily see what I can do with that. But back to this count of our records. What if I want to only show records for today? Okay, so I can go for created date is equal to or greater than current date rounded down to day. Okay, now this isn't going to actually change our figures because you've seen me put all of this data in the last few moments, so it's all entered in today. Like you will have seen me using, I've been using created date, which makes a lot of sense. But if I wanted to have a date field that I can edit, then I need to add in a manual date field, which I'll do, because say I noticed that in my records, I've entered a purchase of 400 items of cardstock on the 15th of the month, but actually it was on the 14th, and for some reason that's really important to me and I want to change it. Well, you can't change these values here, created date and, well, no, modified date obviously changes when you update it, but created date can't be changed. So you have to add a manual date field and use that instead. So I've done this on countless apps. You just find you have to do it because it makes it much more convenient. And right, we now need to have a way that's updated. So we go back onto the little Steam Deck responsive design. When a button is clicked, create a new record, manual date equals, and so I just want this to be the current date time of the user. And then if I go back to index, I can then just update this, so it's no longer created date, it's manual date is equal to or greater than current date rounded down to day. Okay, and now to test that, Oh, if I refresh it now, not sure what to do because the values are all empty. Okay, it doesn't return any results because manual date is empty. So if I go back into my data, all records, I can set it. So let's go for manual date. We'll go for today in this instance. And this is A4 backboard envelopes. And then we'll just look at, here's a wasted one. And we'll put that in we'll put that in for yesterday. So that's going to be the 18. Oh, I popped up at too soon. 07. 2022. I'll put 2022 in. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, and you can see there it is only showing one of the values because of that filtering down to today. And my wasted, my -1, was not on today. And so it's just showing the total. Okay, what shall we tackle next? Okay, an alert when materials drop below a specific value. Okay, so we'll go on to our mobile and let's go on to our materials, and materials will have a lower threshold. And this will be a numerical value. And I'll just edit them in the data tab. Let's say postage labels. I want to be informed when I have less than 10 or less rather, card stock. Let's say I need to actually know 50 when I get down to 50. Okay. So I need an action to occur when the button is pressed. Let's do this as a custom event. Let's try that. Alert when material stock is low, and we'll pass in a material. This is fine. I'm illustrating a custom event here. Custom events are really useful if you are having to create the same workflow multiple times on the same page. If you want to do it multiple times on different pages, you can use a reusable element, even just like a 1x1 cube of a group, and attach workflows to that as a reusable group, reusable element. That can be really helpful because you don't want to be duplicating your work and your workflows, because if you change how your app works, you have to change it in multiple locations, and you introduce the possibility of there just being a lot more bugs and frustrations. Let's use a custom event here, and then the material is going to be I could do current sales material, or I could refer to it as part of step 1. And so this will be only when current sales material. Okay, right. I need to do a search for records where material equals current sales material. So I'm like I was displaying that sum of all of my records. I'll give you a reminder here. So every time a material is used, a record is created. Most of it's -1s, like one sheet of cards is used, and then occasionally there'll be a bulk purchase, like a 200, 400 figure. I need to get that number. So do a search for records, items value, sum. That will tell me the total that's remaining. And so I need to say, is this less than or equal to current sales material lower threshold? And then I'm going to use this to trigger a notification using Toasty. And this is going to be a warning. I'm going to put this in the top right. It wasn't top right. Newest at the top. Close button. Okay, I'll say stock is low. And then I can put in, so my custom event takes in the material, and which allows me to print the material. This is a feature that Bobble only made possible literally a week or two ago. They've vastly expanded what you could do with custom events. Material label. Okay, now if I'm going to test this, I just need to tweak the numbers in my app. So we're working with cardstock, and so cardstock's currently on 400. Let's get rid of all of the used, because that's just going to and wasted. That's going to confuse things. Okay, and then if I go on to materials, cardstock, right, threshold of 50. So in order to test what I've made, whether it works, I'm going to change my stock to 55. So this should mean, we'll go into plan, that if in my little progressive web app, if I click on cardstock 5 times, it should trigger that notification warning. So my type is used. Yeah, so that's going to be a -1 each time. So -1 again. Is that 4? I've lost count. And there we go. It's given us our warning. Now, is it going to give that warning every time? Yes, it is. That could be quite annoying. So let's update the workflow. I mean, ultimately, you probably want it to give you the warning after every certain number of times. I'm not going to work out to that right now. I'm just going to update my trigger here to is. Okay, so that would mean that when it hit the threshold of 50, it would show the notification. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So that's now a warning. Now, can I do something with that to make it a little bit better? Prevent duplicates, timeout, extend timeout. Okay, close button, news on top. Okay, yeah, I could look for other ways of informing a user which is not going to easily be missed. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. Okay, we have 10 minutes left. I think in the last 5 minutes, I'm going to show how to connect a domain up to Bubble. Talk a little bit about DNS, as that can be quite confusing. You know, for no coders, you're almost entering the territory of having to understand a little bit of code, because suddenly you're exposed to the concept of IP addresses and domain registration. But I'm going to do that right at the end, because changes to a domain name, they can take a long time to kind of permeate across the internet. So I'll leave that for later, because it will mean I can't work my app until it's fully working. So let's go backtrack. Swift used wasted alert. Okay. No, I think I've reached a good point actually. So domain names. I have registered a domain name for this app. I'm going to call it Material because it's for my wife's business, and she likes to draw owls amongst other animals, other designs, wooden creatures. They feature owls. So I will be using this domain, and let's connect it up to Bubble. So we'll go into settings and then domain. Right, so you have a choice here. Is your Bubble app going to live on the root domain or on a subdomain? So in this case, the root domain is going to be either www.material.com or just material.com. In fact, technically, root is just material.com. www. is sort of a subdomain in some contexts. Or are you going to have it as app.material.com? And your choice is going to be based on what you want your front page to be, like your home page, the main landing page. It's quite common for people to use like Webflow or WordPress as their landing page because Bubble, they're really making progress with how quickly the front end loads, but it can still be quite slow compared to what you can achieve with WordPress and Webflow. And that's known to have an impact on SEO. So you might decide to have a landing page or a home page for your app on the root domain that is not Bubble, and then you direct people with like a sign in register button on the top right of your navigation, and that sends people to your subdomain. In this instance, I'm going to be setting up on the root domain. So we'll have Material and say set up this domain. Okay, that was when you publish an app with Bubble. If you're using a map element, you had to provide your own Google Maps API keys. That's why I just skipped past there because I won't be using Maps. So what do I do with these? A records, name and IP addresses. So if I go into DNS, this is Namecheap. This is the service that I use to register domains. But you could use GoDaddy. You could use any number of domain registrars. It doesn't really matter. Point is, or Cloudflare. In fact, actually, most of my domains are managed through. I use Cloudflare. Let's add some A records. So a record with a blank value and then pointing to this IP address. Okay, blank value sometimes has to. What's annoying is that domain registrars and those that handle DNS records like this, it really varies how they work. But for Namecheap, you add in an @ sign because that's saying the root of the domain. Well, I'm struggling to select it. Okay, and then these ones we put in the value of www. They've built this as a table, but it's not that easy. It's a little bit small to select. Okay. Now it's a little bit of a waiting game. Sometimes these changes can take 5-10 minutes. If you read other places on the internet, it says sometimes up to 72 hours. But I won't be able to edit my Bubble app until it's detected that I've made these changes to my domain. Let's just see if it has worked. Oh, brilliant. There we go. It's worked. My domain is set up. So now if I hit preview, it's an issue with your domain name. Okay. Yeah. So it looks like on one hand that Bobble has said yes, I've updated the records. Oh no, cool, it's worked. Okay. Uh, this is because I have protection set up because I was concerned that if I was live streaming building an app, that someone might go to the URL and start messing around with it. So that's why it's protected. But you can see that my domain name is now in place, and I have got SSL activated. So there we go. I'm going to finish things there. We have in this session, if you want to watch back, we'll also be cutting the session up into multiple mini videos. But we have built an inventory tracker which has got a mobile view that is basically like a stream deck where a button can be pressed and that logs that material has been used in the app. I've yet to build in a way of entering purchases, but we also worked on like a dashboard which allows you to add materials to which can be tracked with the records. So look out on social media because I'll be posting when I'm going to do a continuation of this. This has been me building an app for my wife's business. She's an Etsy seller, and so I'm going to be picking this up, continuing it, because I think it lays down many of the basics of just how to get the most out of Bubble. Hopefully, by watching along, you will escape many of the pitfalls and the frustrations of just doing something in a way that then later you come to regret. So yeah, look out on social media. I'll be posting when the next live stream will be, and I'll show you how I'm continuing to build this app.